Welcome. We are A Body Like Bruce. Thank you for taking the time to visit our latest video presentation. And this is a video on a book, Bruce Lee, a biography, by Linda Tagliaferro. We found in public domain, public access. And there's a quote here by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. The man who lived the longest is not he who has spent the greatest number of years, but he who has the greatest sensibility of life. Contents page, and it's dedicated to the immortal memories of Bruce Lee and Brandon Bruce Lee, his son. And it's a photo of Bruce Lee from Way of the Dragon, warming up. Bruce Lee broke racial barriers in Hollywood and inspired an interest in Chinese culture through martial arts. As you see on the movie Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, he's sitting in a theatre with Linda, watching a movie, and he sees a Asian character being portrayed by a European, and they're basically mocking him. He's a stumbling fool, speaks funny, and he's only good at doing laundry. That upset him, but he was aware of those racial barriers. The Lethal Punch, Chapter 1, The Lethal Punch. The audience was stunned. What they saw didn't seem possible, but seeing is believing. They watched as a slender but muscular man, barely 5 feet, 7 inches tall and weighing 130 pounds, calmly walked to the centre of the stage and positioned his fist near a hulking karate champion's chest. Suddenly, the smaller man pushed his fist forward just 1 inch. The taller man seemed to crumble, falling backwards across the stage, finally collapsing into a breathless heap on the floor. And this occasion was Ed Parker's first international karate championships, held in August 1964 in Long Beach, California. Parker was known as the father of American karate, i.e. Kempo, and he wanted to show the best of the best in this martial arts tournament, and he saw Bruce Lee do his 1 inch punch. A lot of people today say, oh, I can beat Bruce Lee, I can beat him. No problem, he's all rubbish, he's just an actor. His move is deceitful, phony, whatever. But what they don't understand, because they haven't studied it enough, is that he threw his lead punch. His punch went out first, and then his foot hit the ground, right? Not the other way around, and that's where his power came from. If you bother to read his actual book, okay, on how he gained that power. This Dan and Santo video on Bruce Lee will show you that. Yeah, will tell you that. Okay, so he comes to the attention of this guy, and this other guy happened to be at the tournament, Jay Sebring, and he rang up William Dozier, who directed the 60s Batman, Adam West and Burt Ward, and then he got especially the television series Charlie Chad's #1 son, which didn't happen, and he did the Green Hornet, and from there he became very, very famous, right, as we know. Here's chapter 2 on when he was born, what time he was born, where he was born, etc. Who his parents were. Apparently his mother was Dutch, part Jewish, supposedly, maybe. Okay, and other Chinese didn't really like him, especially when he went to learn Wing Chun. They complained because he wasn't full Chinese. In those days, we were supposed to teach non-Chinese, not full Chinese, right? The martial arts. Here is the piece of jewellery symbolising the phoenix, a fabled bird from Greek mythology. Bruce's parents at first called him Siphon, which means little phoenix. There's more information here. Although Bruce Lee did not start out as a strong child, he was certainly filled with life as he grew up. The Lee family nicknamed him Mo Si Ting, which means never sit still, because he had balanced energy. He was constantly talking and moving. Bruce couldn't even lie still when he was sleeping. He sometimes had nightmares, and his sister Agnes occasionally noticed him climbing down from the top of his bunk bed in the middle of the night to take an unsteady walk around the apartment, even though he was sound asleep, so he was a sleepwalker. So the family soon learned that the only way to get this perpetual motion machine to stop moving and talking was to give him a book. Young Bruce was an avid reader, and he often stayed up half the night poring over the pages of a new book. Grace Lee was concerned that so much reading contributed to her son's vision problems. From an early age, Bruce was severely nearsighted and needed to wear glasses. Later in life, he wore contact lenses in public. When he wasn't reading or roaming around, he was busy thinking up practical jokes. He once offered his sister Phoebe a book, recommended it highly. When she opened the cover, the book gave off an electric shock. Phoebe cried out in pain while her mischievous tormentor ran off laughing. Another time, Bruce Lee rearranged all the furniture at the entrance to the family's apartment. When the maid came home late that night, she struggled in the dark through an unfamiliar maze of chairs and tables until she has finally reached the light in the middle of the room. Grace Lee had to force herself not to laugh when the maid complained about Bruce's antics. But despite Bruce's devilish streak, his heart was kind. Okay, he ran outside, he helped a poor man, blind man, right? And so forth. There's his family there, his sisters and brothers. Robert, the guitar singer musician, the youngest in the front row. Okay, Hong Kong, at the time, which lied in the tropics at the southeastern tip of China. Chapter 3, The Little Dragon. Because his father was in a Cantonese opera company, Bruce grew up surrounded by people in the entertaining industry and eventually got into it. First as a baby wrapped up, and then later on when 6 and so forth. Became a cha-cha champion in Hong Kong in 1958, and that's where he got his broken rhythm, his rhythm, etc. from cha-cha dancing. He incorporated it. Kung Fu fighter. He had to fight with others, so he felt, I need to undertake martial arts discipline. So he became a pupil of Yip Man, a renowned Wing Chun master, and studied with him for 5 years, typically for 4 to 6 hours a day. Yip Man told Bruce to calm his mind and to forget about himself. Bruce learned that the most important tactic was to be aware of his opponent's every movement. When the opponent expands, I contract, and when he contracts, I expand. Lee's character explained in Enter the Dragon, 1973, and when there is an opportunity, I do not hit, it hits all by itself. Talk about his fist. It hits all by itself. And so forth. In his realizations, which he incorporated in his philosophy and created Jeet Kune Do. That's when he realized, understood water in relationship to the martial arts. Then he goes to America, gets expelled from La Salle College or Academy, and so forth. And he returns, he went to America, I think. Bruce's martial arts ability eventually landed him a role on the American television series The Green Hornet. Bruce Wright leaps through the air and surprises an unsuspecting villain. Yeah. It was a good show apparently in America, but it really took off and made him a star in Hong Kong. The Kato Show, they called it the Kato Show, not the Green Hornet Show, in Hong Kong. And there's information there. He went to work at Ruby Charles, or something like that. Yeah, put him to work in a restaurant. He didn't like it because their family was quite wealthy, but yeah, he had to do it. Working at Ruby Charles restaurant at night, Bruce eventually received his high school diploma. That's when high school diploma was probably worth something in those days. These days, just another piece of paper. Most times. Bruce found peace in studying the martial arts. He went from student to teacher, and he met his wife, Linda Emery. Bruce Lee with his wife in 1964. They got married. And apparently, according to that Dragon Lee story, in those days, it was frowned upon for a European girl or a white girl to marry a non-American or Chinese, or that sort of stuff. She was quite smitten by him, eh? He goes on about the 1-inch punch. There's Brandon as a little boy. Was his dad Bruce? What's this? In 1964, the year Bruce and Linda were married, Bruce was invited to give a kung fu demonstration at the first International Karate Championship. The event was organised by Ed Parker, a renowned martial arts instructor, Kempo Karate, whose most famous student was singer Elvis Presley. He demonstrates a one-inch punch and eventually sealed his fate as a star. Sitting in the audience was Jay Sebring, a Hollywood hairdresser, whose clients included many powerful people in the show, then William Dozer from Batman, and so forth. Kato and the Green Hornet, or the Kato Show in Hong Kong. The Warrior Spirit. Although the Green Hornet had a faithful following in the USA, its popularity was far surpassed by another Dozier production, Batman, with its boldly coloured scenery, dynamic camera angles that mimicked comic book art, and words like pow, bang, boom flashing across the television screen. Batman attracted a wider audience, led to more subtle stories of the dapper crime fighter and his chauffeur. One Batman episode combined the two shows that featured Batman, the Caped Crusader, and his sidekick Robin fighting the Green Hornet and Kato. Even this episode failed to attract a wider audience for the Green Hornet. The show was cancelled in 1967 after only one season of 26 episodes. Yeah, and that's when Burt Ward thought he was the man. He had a black belt in karate or boxing and all this sort of stuff. He kicked Bruce Lee's butt, and Bruce Lee said, "Oh yeah, whatever." So he come at him hard, and as Adam West said, Burt Ward literally peed his pants. Okay, more information. And then with intercepting fist on the television series Longstreet, where he advises the blind detective. This character advises him, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Now water can flow, or creep, or drip, or crash. Be water, my friend. He tells the detective to free himself from his ambitious mind. Like everyone else, he explains you want to learn the way to win, but never accept the way to lose. Lee's performance impressed producers so much that The Way of the Intercepting Fist was chosen as the first Longstreet episode of the season. Bruce was asked to act in a few more episodes. Then he went on to Marlowe, The Wrecking Crew, and so forth. A memorable scene in Marlowe shows Bruce shattering a light on an 8-foot ceiling with one swift kick. The roots of Jeet Kune Do. The Warrior. Bruce was still an avid reader. He was an avid reader whose collection of books ranged from works of martial arts to writing by philosophers such as the Indian mystics Krishnamurti. He read Norman Vincent Peale's books on the power of positive thinking, and he studied books about Western boxing and fencing. As he rested at home, Bruce also put together notes for his own book that Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Tao is a Chinese word meaning way, etc., etc. So there's a hint. If you want to get into the mindset of Bruce Lee, read those books. Krishnamurti, the old Indian guy, British accent, who sat on the chair, was all quiet for about 10 minutes, then he speaks his philosophy. Because there's two types of Krishnamurti. Two people called Krishnamurti. So that's a hint to find Bruce Lee's mindset and understand how he developed it in order to do all that he achieved in his extraordinary but short lifespan. Linda and Bruce Lee with daughter Shannon. Good information here. Bruce's widow, Linda, explains one of the ideas that Bruce led his life by was that you can't always change the things that happen to you, but what is important is how you react to those events. So while Bruce was sorely disappointed at encouraging prejudice in Hollywood, he chose to deal with that by creating an opportunity. There's a famous quote, "To hell with circumstances, I create opportunities. You just movie Fist of Fury. Big Boss. And here it says Bruce, centre in a scene from Fist of Fury. When it's not, it's that other guy. Forgotten his name. So in Game of Death, he got thrown down the stairs by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's not Bruce Lee. This guy up here, the guy at the gate, side on, he looked more like Bruce Lee. This is definitely not Bruce Lee. I forgot this guy's name, but he was on Game of Death footage and possibly another movie of Bruce Lee's. And it goes on about the Big Boss and what difficulties he went through in Thailand, but he was an overnight success. Then he did Fist of Fury, or the Chinese Connection, and it goes through what happens in the movie. Way of the Dragon, Chuck Norris, 7 times world karate champion. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, hell of a tall basketball player, right? One of his students. Into the Dragon. Wow, look at his physique. Bruce's performance helped to make Into the Dragon one of the classic martial arts films of all time. Behind the scenes of Into the Dragon. Sudden collapse on the set. Went into the bathroom, collapsed, and then checked to see if well, they say you swallow your tongue, right? But we might have bit it off. But apparently that's mythical. You can't swallow your tongue. It can obstruct your airways, I suppose. But they found he had a marijuana leaf or hashish leaf under his tongue because he couldn't keep still, right? So that's why he's doing that, using that stuff. And there's supposedly how he died. He complained of severe headache. His co-star gave him a prescription pill, Equagesic, and Bruce went to lie down until the headache passed. He never woke up. So they said that the ingredients he may have been allergic to that particular ingredient. The world is shocked and saddened by the sudden death of Bruce Lee. And he had that footage of Game of Death, which the actual movie was never completed, so they put a cardboard cutout, all that sort of rubbish, which led up to these other martial artists, like longtime friend, stuntman Jackie Chan, Jean-Claude Van Damme, instead of Bloodsport, all that sort of stuff. Okay, and there's some information on Bruce and Brandon, etc. Afterthoughts, Brandon Lee, there's some good movies. Action movies like Rapid Fire, that was really good. And he's Dragon Lee, the Bruce Lee story. Jason Scott Lee, he sees no relation to Bruce, but apparently he did well in Jeet Kune Do or something like that. Here's his ex-wife Linda Lee Emery. At that time Linda Lee Caldwell or something like that. Daughter Shannon. The Crow. This is Brandon Lee in his movie The Crow. He was really good in that. He died, killed, an accident, something like that. The different rumours. Epilogue with the ending. That's Linda Lee Caldwell and a memorial talking to his close friends, students and others who came to pay tribute. Apparently Jean-Claude Van Damme was there, etc. Here's a source pronunciation guide of all the different names like Bolo Yung, Ching, Ching, Jihan Soi, with, you want to know how to pronounce them properly, Tam Lung. Is your name Tam Lung? Yeah, it sounds like Tong Lung, and so forth. Yeah, this Yang Zi or Bolo Yung, he's in a hell of a lot of movies. Yeah, some are pretty cool. He's always that tough guy, you know. Picks up the other guy. Yeah. Throws him around, all that sort of stuff. A good actor. It must be about 97 films he did. Still looks good though. Bibliography, magazine, newspaper articles. Filmography. Yeah. Game of Death was ridiculous because they only contained short sequences of the real Bruce Lee, and it had like a look-alike, and then it had a cardboard cutout, you know, all this sort of stuff. It's just silly. Okay, index for more info and other titles by from Lerner and other artists, celebrities, etc. And yes, all about the author. So we hope you enjoyed this book. This is very hard to read, so I won't bother reading it. We hope that you enjoyed this video presentation. If you did, please subscribe to our channel. Give us a like, add your comments below in the comment section of this video, and then go share this video with all your family, friends, neighbours, etc. that are hardcore, die-hard Bruce Lee fans.